Welcome back to Cooking a la LaLa, the final episode, canning tomatoes. Okay, we are going to talk about heirloom tomatoes versus hybrid tomatoes and why there is a trip to the state farmers market in store for us, even though we've got so many tomatoes. Shishito peppers. These are wonderful little peppers that we started growing a few years ago. Also, padron peppers. Both of these peppers are delicious, just seared in a hot skillet with maybe a little brushing of oil. Get them charred and color. They're so terrific. And so these have taken a while to come in. I've picked a few. Here's another one. You want to pick them before they get too big. The bigger they get, the hotter they get. And the interesting thing about these peppers is, let's just say 1 out of 10 is going to be really hot. 1 out of 10 of these padrones, likewise, will get your attention. But they have almost a chocolatey flavor, especially these Shishitos. But I just wanted to show you that because a lot of people don't know about these peppers. And if you see them at your little pop-up neighborhood farmer's market, get some. All right, here we are at the State Farmers Market at Forest Park. We're gonna go over to the Georgia Grown Sheds and look at their tomatoes. But this is the most fantastic place. It's outdoors, which you know is good these days. But you can see how many vendors there are. And you really get a great price. You gotta get yourself down here, but it's worth the trip. Okay, here we are. Which booth is this? I don't know the name of this booth, but there's some really great ripe tomatoes. These are not Georgia grown, but here is a case. It's probably 20, 25 bucks for a case. 25, Shed 25 at the Forest Park Farmers Market. We're getting a case of tomatoes, red ripe tomatoes. This is Shed 25. They'll love to do business with you. Woo! This is what this episode is all about. Fresh canned tomatoes. It's just the most, oh my God, Mona! After all I have done for your brand, what the hell? Like I was saying at the garden earlier today, heirloom tomatoes are amazing. They're beautiful. Their flavor is unparalleled, but they are often sort of misshapen. These are not bad tomatoes. This is just how they grow. They're not perfect. They're not hybrids. Here's another example of a lovely Brandywine tomato. This is not blossom and rot. This is just the way the tomato grew. And what I'm going to do when it's time to eat it, to use it, I'm going to cut it in half and just cut away this bad. And there's all of this wonderful meat. These are hybrid tomatoes. These are ones that we got at the State Farmers Market. They're all perfectly round. They're perfectly gorgeous. These are some of the ones that we grew that are perfectly round and perfectly gorgeous that we're going to can. But I wanted to show you the reason you kind of would like to have some hybrid tomatoes in your garden, because they grow in a very uniform manner. The equipment, this is where it gets interesting. This is a water bath canner. All right, this is how we are going to process our quarts, well, 7 quarts of tomatoes. This is a rack that sits right in here, and we'll put our cans down here, and when they're full and lidded, we'll drop that in and cover it and process it. Here's some other fun little tools. This is a double tool. You can use it to make sure there aren't any air pockets in here. And you also, it has a measurer on the top, so you know that you have enough headspace so your tomatoes don't explode in the canner. And I've done that before. This is a handy funnel to help you get your tomatoes in. Where's that other handy? Oh, this is fun. This is a magnetic grabber. And what you do with your lids that you have washed and you have let simmer in hot water for about 10 minutes, you get your lid, and it'll be hot, so that's why you have the grabber. and pick it up. Everything needs to be perfectly sanitary, so that's where there are all these little tools. And the fun one is the big grabber. When you're finished processing your tomatoes, you'll pick them up and carry them over to the counter and put them down, but then they would be full of tomatoes. We are scoring our tomatoes. We're doing this because in order to can our tomatoes, we need to peel them. And the best way to peel them is to score them with a very sharp knife. Sharpen your knife. Ooh, I don't need glasses. And what we have over here is a big vat of boiling water. We're going to drop these in. I'm going to do about 5 at a time for about 30 seconds. What this is going to do is loosen up the skin of these tomatoes, and then when the 30 seconds is up, I'm going to scoop them out with this spider, which is such a wonderful tool. It's better than using a slotted spoon. And then I'm going to remove the tomatoes to a bigger bowl here, and I'm just going to do all of the tomatoes. So this bowl is heaping full of tomatoes so that I can move into the next phase of our effort. Now it gets surgical. We have all of our blanched tomatoes. This bowl here is the heirloom tomatoes from our garden. And I do want to make the point, you can use these convoluted shapes that we have over here, those Cherokee purples that have the dimples and divots. It just takes a long time to get the skin off an irregular tomato. These, you can see, they're just pretty much perfectly round, and the skin is just coming right off. And I have noticed that the skin of the heirloom tomatoes comes off much easier. I think the skin is much thinner on the heirloom tomatoes, at least these that we're using. And if you get into farming and gardening, and you'll discover there's certain tomatoes that you grow that you like the flavor of or you like the shape of. We have some that we put in called Thessaloniki. It's a Greek tomato. They've done beautifully. They're round, they're big. This is a Thessaloniki. So, next year I might put in a whole row. This year I think we only have 3 or 4 of these. I like to have 6 or 7, but we only had 3 or 4 that made it to planting. So you can see what we're doing. We're peeling them, and then what we're going to do, like I said, it's surgical. We're going to cut them and cut out the core, and I like to do it in quarters. And we're just going to go through all of these tomatoes. We've peeled them, we're coring them, we're quartering them. Okay, this just took a few minutes. Just kidding. It takes a while, but it is so worth it to spend a day in the kitchen. It gets hot because you've got all the burners going. It's the middle of summer. But what's great is when you come to December, January, February, and you want a little bit of summer in your mouth, you just go to the pantry and you get a quart of your wonderful tomatoes. Okay, so we have peeled and quartered and cored our tomatoes. I have washed my hands, they're clean. This is where we start packing them in to our quart jars. All right, so just bum. And we're also going to add a half a teaspoon of citric acid. You can use lemon juice. I have started using citric acid just because you know exactly how much citric acid is in the prepared citric acid, and that is this. It's made by Ball, as are all of our jars and all of our accoutrements. So we'll do a half a teaspoon of this. What are you telling me?
You're not showing the front of the jar.
Oh, sorry. There's the front of the jar. My husband. He's so helpful. Yeah, so look, here we are. We're packing it in. This tool here is to make sure there aren't any pockets of oxygen, of air in here. You want to really get it full. All right, so there's room for more. We're going to leave a half an inch of headspace. I need to get into a different headspace, people. All right, I'm gonna get this done. Okay. And so, like I told you earlier, this is the little measurer. Okay, I think I can get one more thing in here and just ram it in. And then we're going to put the half a teaspoon of citric acid. There we go. And the other thing we have over here, we have our lids that have been washed and simmered in hot water for about 10 minutes. That will make sure they're completely sterile. Your jars need to be completely sterile. Your attitude needs to be completely sterile. No bad attitudes, okay? Citric acid. Ask the scientist in your world why this is necessary. It's necessary, okay? What you want to do before we put the lids on is make sure that the top, the rim is clean and dry and there aren't any food particles, okay? But so here we have our clean, dry, sterilized lid. I'm gonna put that on. Other things that can cause an explosion if you overpack your jar. Also, if your jar has a fissure in it, a crack, you can use these jars over and over and over again as long as they don't have a crack. The one thing that you can't use over and over and over again, you can only use it once in the canning, nation, is these lids. You can use your jars over and over again, and you can use your rings over and over again. But these have to be new every time you use them. All right, so we're gonna do the rest of these, but what we're gonna do is you put the rings on, you put them on, and you don't wanna do them really tight. You wanna do them so that they're not, you wanna do them so that they're just right when they stop, you stop. The 7th quart is going in. Ooh, gosh, it took a minute to get here, but like I say, it's so worth it. We are going to lower this, what do you call this, basket into the canner, and we're gonna cover it. And once it comes back up to the boil, we are going to, another beauty treatment, and dinner ingredient. We're going to let this process for 45 minutes. We're going to make sure it stays at a simmer. And if I put this in and too much water has evaporated while we've been talking and cutting and chopping, I will add a little bit more, because you want to make sure that your pans are covered, and they are covered. I might add a little bit more boiling water just to make sure, and then when this comes back up to the boil, we will start the timer, 45 minutes. 45 minutes have elapsed. Nothing has exploded. Sometimes you just don't know. All right, pulling them out, putting them up here. The great signature sound of your quarts being ready is they make this wonderful pop sound. Look at that. That is a quart of summer love. And that, unless it explodes, is summer love without heartbreak. But look, this is the most beautiful bright color. The stuff you get at the grocery stores, even the organic, Italian, what have you, Roma tomatoes, they don't taste like this. So you spend a day in the kitchen, you get all shiny, you get all, upset because the kitchen is hot. But this is the most amazing thing. I want to encourage you just to try it, especially if we're in quarantine until 2025. Why not? We've done all this canning. We have 7 quarts of beautiful tomatoes in the can, ready to go. And I was thinking, well, what are we going to do with the tomatoes? And there's no logic in that because we put the tomatoes up for later so we can have wonderful stews and soups in the winter when we can't grow our tomatoes. And so I started thinking there's so many recipes that I have not had the chance to share, and this is the last show. So I thought, what is the most important recipe that I share before we sign off? And I realized it was my mother's fresh apple cake. It's actually my Aunt Jean's recipe, but I got it from my mom. So I just call it my mom's apple cake. It's wonderful. It's decadent. It's a little bit slutty. There's a caramel sauce that you poke holes in the cake with a chopstick after it's baked, and you pour this caramel cream, brown sugar sauce, butter. It's decadent and it's delicious and it's terribly sweet, but it's easy to make and everyone loves it. We have flour, sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, a little soda, salt, 3 eggs, chopped pecans, and peeled and chopped green. I like to use Fuji apples. So anyhow, this is what we're gonna make. It doesn't have anything to do with summer. It doesn't have anything to do with tomatoes, but it's my show and I pick. Okay, I have 3 cups of flour here, a teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm gonna put some nutmeg. And what you wanna do is sift this, right? Because you want it to be all blended together. And I'm gonna do the nutmeg after I do this because sometimes all the nutmeg doesn't go through the holes of this sieve. And this is the only step that takes a minute, but I kind of like it. We have a cup and a half of vegetable oil. You can use canola, you can use corn, you can use just plain vegetable oil, but a cup and a half. Liquid gold, and 2 cups of sugar, and we're going to blend this together. There we go, the old handy KitchenAid. This thing is probably 40 years old, so almost my age. Ha! Guess what? 21 more minutes till jelly time. That's also a way to tell you preheat your oven to 350. Okay, we've got our vegetable oil and our sugar being beaten. I highly recommend fresh nutmeg. Don't get already grated nutmeg. Grate your own. It keeps a long time, and you can get a little fancy grater that holds your nutmeg. You slide the little plane in, and it keeps it fresh. Okay, 3 eggs. These are going in. 1. I'm gonna give that a little more steam. Woo! 2. 3. And a little bit of vanilla. That 2 teaspoons, yeah. Maybe a little bit more. I love vanilla. Vanilla tastes good. Okay, and then this is going to go in. I'm not going to show you me doing this because, well, no, I will. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll slow this down. It usually goes everywhere. Hey, this is my lucky day. Oven's preheated. Okay, about 3 cups of apple. That's usually about an apple and a half. You can do it on a box grater. I tend to do it like this because I frequently disfigure my fingers when I use a box grater. Just a rough chop. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want the pieces to be too big. It's amazing I haven't cut my finger off during the taping of the show. Focused as I am on other things. You, my devoted audience. Okay, in go the apple pieces. Get that going slowly. Oh, Roscoe's so excited. We're making apple cake. And we might have a mystery guest taster. He, she, or they love apple cake. And he, she, or they don't know that apple cake is what he, she, or they will be enjoying on their mystery tasting visit. Ooh, there's some apple pieces that fell out. And what we're going to do is put this in a prepared bundt pan. You can butter it and then flour it. That's the classy thing to do, but that doesn't always work for me. I'm not a good butter and flourer, so I use Pam baking spray. I know it's kind of cheesy, but it works. So, all right, so I'm going to put this in a prepared pan and bake it for an hour, and then we'll let it chill out for a second, and then we'll put that slutty syrup all over it. It's going to be delicious. Roscoe loves apple cake. Roscoe, fella, apple cake? Yeah. Come help me clean up this beater. He's moving kind of slow. He is geriatric. He's officially probably, what, 77 years old. Show him how much you love Mama's apple cake. Look at the camera, little guy. Show him how handsome you are when you're making a mess. The batter. All right, it's going in. You can see it is a very, very thick. In fact, I'm going to do it like this. It doesn't really want to pour. And it's a very moist cake. A lot of times you cut into it and you think, oh, it didn't cook all the way through. You'll make sure you cook it all the way through when you test it, when you pull it out of the oven. But what makes it so moist is that syrup that we poke holes in the cake and make sure you fill all the holes up. So this is going to go in. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to put it in the oven, and then I will be moving on to other endeavors. Wait a minute. Oh, look. It's 6:29. How about that? All right, she's in. I'm going to set the timer for 60 minutes, and that's when we'll check it and see if it's done. It's time for a jelly jar. And what's this? A bottle wine? Pinot Grigio? Well, you know what? After the abuse heaped on my head by Boda, after all the free advertising I have given them over the last 12 weeks, the hoarding I have done of Boda, I say F that, y'all. Just kidding. Yeah, so this is our syrup that we're gonna make, okay? This is a cup of dark brown sugar, a stick of butter. Y'all, people, don't you be putting any oleo or margarine in here, and a 1/4 cup of milk, or half and half, or heavy cream if you're feeling slutty. We're gonna let this come to a boil and let it boil for a minute, and then it's just gonna be ready for us to salt our cake with and drip it into the holes that we put in our cake. So, woohoo, almost there. Here is our caramel syrup that we're going to drizzle over our apple cake, over and into. And here are those shishito peppers that we picked at the garden. They're irregularly shaped, so I have just brushed them all over with olive oil to make sure the oil gets into their little crevices. And I'm going to do this in the grill pan just because it was out. And what we're going to do is let them sit on this heat, and that you can already hear, come get a little closer, the popping. And we're just going to blister them. We'll toss them every couple of minutes until all of the sides are charred and blistered. And I've made a little bruschetta here, and we have some buffalo milk burrata that we're going to put some of this yummy olive oil on. I'll probably chop up a little bit of tomatoes, but this will just be a nice appetizer to have while our cake is baking. And we can eat some of these peppers that we grew from seed. We started these in our upstairs bathroom under a grow light in January. Here are our blistered shishito peppers. How gorgeous. See that? Tom helped me. He put the camera down, helped flip these around while I was chopping up these tomatoes. I'm going to taste one, and we're going to see if this is one of the 1 out of 10 hot ones. I can't describe it. Sometimes they taste a little chocolatey. Did I say this is some smoked Maldon sea salt? Be good with a sprinkle of lemon. We have some burrata here and some chopped tomatoes, but you really don't need anything more than the tiniest bit of olive oil, these peppers, a little bit of salt. If you see them at your pop-up market, East Atlanta Village Market, whatever markets are in your neighborhood that are farmers markets, if you see any shishitos or padrones, buy a bag and taste them. They're delicious. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I won. All right, let's see what we got here, people. Here is our beautiful apple cake. So y'all probably know this, and I will reveal that I do actually need to have my spectacles on to inspectacle the cake to make sure it's done. This is a little bamboo skewer. We're gonna stick it in it. Okay, that comes out pretty clean. I think this needs 5 more minutes. We're gonna put it back in. It's had 5 more minutes. Let's check and see. Yeah, let's do a few more. When it's in a bundt cake, it has different, you know, it's convoluted, but I'm gonna call this done. Now I can take off my prop. Now what you do is I like to use a chopstick because it's big enough that you can actually get the syrup, the caramel syrup, to go down through these holes. Actually, I'm gonna need my prop again. Here we go. This is the technique, people. You've got your hot caramel syrup. Just slowly drizzle it so it seeps into the hole. We're gonna let it sit in this mold for a couple of hours or overnight until we unmold it. But this will be the most amazing cake. You'll be so glad. I guess I should turn that burner off. You'll be so glad that you have this recipe. Aunt Jean's fresh apple cake via Anita Kirby Cochran, via Elizabeth Kirby Cochran, whom y'all know as LaLa. Here is our apple cake. Our mystery guest taster is here. I am so excited about this. All right, this is where you got to keep your fingers crossed and hope that all of that prep worked and that the cake comes out seamlessly. I might need to give it a little. This is going to be very embarrassing because there's not a backup cake. There we go. Our mystery guest taster is here, and we have our mystery dome and our fabulous mystery item. Here is our mystery taster, Emilio Perez.
Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da. My oldest Atlanta friend, and not that he is the oldest.
No.
He is the first best friend I
Aww.
made when I moved to Atlanta.
That's right, yeah.
And we have been friends ever since.
Ever since.
So I'm going to do the great reveal.
All right. Ooh, what could it be?
The mystery dome is removed.
Well, this is hilarious. This is so funny. I talk her into making me one of these every year for my birthday. And last year she talked me into like putting half in the freezer and then keeping half out. And the half in the freezer didn't last very long, but still. Oh, you really got me.
Did I get you?
Yes, you
Oh,
did.
good.
Good.
I'm so glad. I'm gonna
And you
move
kept
the-
setting me up with I hope you like escargot.
I know.
Why is she telling me what it's going to be?
Sorry.
This is so good.
Yeah. Oh, Roscoe wants
Even
some.
Roscoe wants some. He's jealous.
He licked the beater.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised.
All right, friend.
No. And it is.
So you're having dessert before
That's all right.
dinner.
It is. The thing I love about this too is it has no calories. They're holiday calories, which don't count.
They don't count.
They don't count.
Birthday and holiday
And
calories.
look, she gave me a fork like I need one. Now, the taste, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Mmm.
Don't fall out.
Mmm. I'm having a moment. What?
It looks good on you.
What's this crown? What are these jewels?
You look beautiful.
Thank you. Mmm. It's so rich. Mm.
It is rich.
Mm-hmm.
It is not for the faint of heart, but it's for the full of belly.
But no calories.
Emilio Pere is the only guest we've had on Cooking a la LaLa that has not appeared in a show on stage at the Horizon Theater. He has, however, seen everything I have ever done there.
And other shows as well, not just the shows that LaLa's been in.
That's right.
But I make it a habit of going, and one of my favorites was the taser dance that you did during Waffle Palace.
With Eric Mendenhall.
Yes, yes.
That was the only time I ever, during a show, broke. I messed up the words and it came out such gobbledygook. And I started laughing and I couldn't control myself and Eric started laughing. It was the only time I've ever broken.
It's always funny though, you know. And I've seen every incantation of that show.
You've seen everyone. You saw all of the Santa Lands.
Oh yes.
And always brought people.
Oh yeah. Just a favorite. I mean, that was part of my Christmas holiday. You know, people go see Christmas Carol or the Nutcracker. But yeah, it was always favorite.
I missed that show.
Yeah, it's a favorite. Yeah.
Emilio and I met right after I moved to Atlanta 100 years ago, and we got to know each other because we were both in Laughing Matters improv group,
which was the first improv group here in Atlanta. Now there are a lot of improv groups.
That's right, the founding group.
The founding group. It was in the mid '80s, and we would have to explain to the audience at the beginning of every show what improv was, because they thought it was just a group of stand-ups, and so we'd have to get tasteful suggestions. We'd have to emphasize tasteful suggestions for every show. And LaLa and I, we just got along so well as far as doing improv skits together. We played husband and wife, brother and sister, sister and sister.
Good old days.
Good old days. But now I have to go back to this cake. Oh, that was so good.
You did it.
It was so moist too, really.
Look, here's your second piece.
Oh, well. If you weren't going to offer it to me, I was going to take it under my arm and take it home anyway.
I will send you home with some.
Oh, well, that's so nice of you.
I wish you could stay, but I know you have to go.
Yes.
But thank you for being the final mystery guest taster on the final episode of the first season of Cooking a la LaLa.
Oh, thank you for inviting me so much. I really do appreciate it.
I love you.
Love you too, sweetie.
Cheers. Thank y'all so much for watching the final episode of season 1 of Cooking a la LaLa. We have all these canned tomatoes, and I have an idea. I think if you all make a donation to the Horizon Theater between now and Labor Day, your name will be put into a pot and drawn once a week to win 2 cans of these tomatoes that we've put together while you watched on the show. Anybody who has donated before, your name is already in the pot. Every week we'll draw another name, and I will meet you personally somewhere in Atlanta. I'm not going to drive to Chattanooga, and give you your tomatoes and thank you for your support of the show and of the Horizon at Home programming during the coronavirus pandemic. Now I want to say that we started taping this lark of a show on April 6th. I think we were still coming to terms with what the coronavirus was going to mean to our lives, and boy, it has meant something. So many things have changed since early April. The death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. The world has changed. Richard Brooks. And hopefully we're all listening to each other more because we've had the opportunity to not be running around with our crazy lives and listening to each other. And I hope that we can keep doing that. It's very important. And hopefully we can get back to doing live theater in Atlanta. I miss my job so much. And I'm grateful to all of you who have been supporters of the Horizon, because it's a beautiful place to tell a story, and I hope we can do it again very soon. We started the show by saying, be safe, be sane, and be sated. I hope that this show has helped you be a little bit more of those things. I'm sure I've probably driven some of you crazy with my crazy knife skills or the open cabinet in the background, but I'm grateful for your watching the show and sticking with it. And who knows, there might be a season 2, people. Cheers.
Donate to Horizon between now and Labor Day to have your name put in the Boda box for a chance to win LaLa's canned tomatoes. Head to horizontheater.com/support/ways-to-give to make your donation. Want to see a second season of Cooking a la LaLa? Let us know. Send an email to feedback@horizontheater.com. Subject: more LaLa.